Cheers, everybody. Welcome. We're going to do a quick reading of a post because it's a banger post and it also ties into a lot of the ideas that we've talked about on this channel, obviously, as well as the concepts in my book. The concepts in my book, which, by the way, if you haven't heard, I have the audiobook version is now available, and literally anywhere that you are, in your car, at the gym, in the shower, you can put this on your headphones, listen to it, and absorb all the information. It's already generating life-changing results for people. The recent video that I did about the success story, that's one success story. I've gotten other emails from other people as well. That one really stood out, so I did the reading of it. But yeah, you know, these things that we talk about, they work. And it also contains a lot of success stories that I've gone through and handpicked through Reddit, whether it's the Neville sub, whether it's the Law of Attraction sub. Some of the best success stories I've found, I've done all the work for you guys. I've found them. I've picked apart the techniques, what works, what doesn't work. I've given you processes that are proven to generate results. That's also what I'm doing with you right now in this video, is I'm going to read this so you can see from this person's perspective how they were able to get this apartment. So I'd like to preface this post by saying I'm currently in the apartment of my desires, in the area of my desires. I just moved in today, exactly as I desired. My history and study of the law. I was introduced to Law of Assumption and Neville around July 2024. I've read his books and lectures, as well as many other mental science pioneers. It's probably talking about a lot of the authors that we've discussed here, New Thought authors. I would guess Maxwell Maltz, Joseph Murphy, Wallace D. Wattles, people like that. So my desire, I really wanted my own apartment and my own space. I wanted to decorate it. I wanted to invite people over whenever, and I wanted to cook when I wanted, and my living space didn't allow for that. I also wanted to be in a walkable area and not really need to rely on driving anywhere. What I did, I started focusing completely on my desire in December 2024. I had a couple other things I was desiring at the time, but I decided my own living space was what I wanted the most right now. So I sat for 1 hour almost every night, sometimes 4 nights in a row, skip one night because I was too tired, sometimes 5 in a row, and imagine myself in my apartment. I would walk at the front door and be greeted by the beautiful open kitchen with large windows. I would feel how happy and excited I was to be in my own space. As the nights went on, I would add more sensory details to my imaginary scene. I'd touch this stainless steel fridge and feel it on my hand. I'd lay my face down on the cool granite island, and I would hear the balcony door open when I opened it. I would also affirm I have the apartment of my desires in the walkable area of my desires now. All day, every day. My mind was always on having what I wanted. My imaginary scenes didn't stop after my hour sessions. I kept them going throughout the day. When I took a shower, I imagined and felt that I was in my apartment bathroom. This is what I call a 3D overlay technique. Talk about this in my book. Essentially, you're doing something that you already would be doing, but you imagine that overlay in the 3D, that it is, let's say you're in the shower of your new apartment, or you're in the car, your new car, but you're driving in your car, but you're imagining that it is your car that you are envisioning. So yeah, imagined and felt it was in my bathroom apartment, seeing the glass shower door. That's where you start to begin to add these sensory vivid details. Also, if I ever got frustrated with how something in my living space at the time, notice how he's using sound, hearing the balcony door opening, feeling the cool granite counter against his face. He's using sight as well. So he's using like all three: auditory, visual, feeling. Also, if I ever got frustrated with something in my living space at the time, I'd think, I'm so happy I moved out. And when I was driving home, I'd feel and tell myself, I'm just coming to visit. Now it is March. However, I received a job in February that was in the walkable area of my desires. The apartment of my desires is in this area as well, and I got it for a great price, and I can walk to work every day. There's also a beautiful open kitchen, large window, and glass door for the shower. There's one bit of advice that I read in this sub that really helped me, is that you must be in the state of having your desires all the time. You can't be there for 1 hour in the day and the remainder 23 be doubting and wondering where it is. That's counterproductive. What I noticed, I will say, I enjoyed being in my imaginal scene and affirming and scripting. I did get to a point where it definitely felt like, yeah, I have this. I kept doing everything, and I mentioned above because I liked to and could always keep track of where my mind was. But a time came when I physically and emotionally felt like I had what I desired. My manager at a previous job was telling me that she was going to change our hours around, and I remember in my head thinking, well, this really doesn't concern me because I won't be here when it goes into effect. It was a natural thought, and it was before I had a job offer on it or any idea where I'd go. Thanks for reading my post. All right, so just to go over the couple top comments here. Yes, you are right when you say you have to live in the state of your desires 24/7. I'm scared by the incredible events that have been happening in my life for 1 week. Finally, a true miracle occurred. Okay, so they're not really going into detail about their situation. So fantastic execution. Now somebody's asking, curious, first of all, congrats. I've been visualizing all my life, even before knowing about the law. And yeah, most scenes happen in my reality, but from what I read here, you've been going with the same scene for quite a long time. How could you? Personally, at some point, I kind of lose interest in seeing the same scene over. I get the adding more details night after night, but it seems impossible to feel satisfaction after living the scene so many times. All right, so they said, I had one secret that I made sure to repeat every time during my hour session, because it's the power in repetition. However, if I felt I immersed myself enough in that scene, I'd visualize myself doing other things that I implied I had the apartment. So I'd switch it up throughout the session. I didn't lose interest because this is where I wanted to be, so I enjoyed it. If I were living in my apartment, I wouldn't get tired of seeing the same view from my balcony or the view of my kitchen. I sort of viewed it like dwelling there, you know? Something that I read also kept me repeating the scenes easy is that you should persist until you see it reflected in the 3D. So I also had that in mind. I felt that if I kept doing the exact same thing, I would absolutely help it. I would absolutely have it. Hope that helped. Touch and feeling are mechanisms we use to attach ourselves to that which we are aware of. Feeling, yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what I mentioned earlier. He's using those sensory, really feeling it, and not feeling like the feeling like Neville feeling, but like the touch sensation of like the granite countertops. All right, so, just a good little post to understand that there's many different ways of going about this. And the more that you just are doing it almost for enjoyment's sake, the more that it's going to have results, the more that it's going to work. Notice that he also used inner conversations. So he was talking to his manager or whatever about shifting work around, and he's just like, yeah, it's not going to matter because I'm not going to be here anymore. So he pretty much, all the techniques that I talk about in my book, he's using them, not all of them, obviously, but he's using multiple techniques, right? But it doesn't seem like he wasn't even setting out to do that technique. It's just a matter of he really began to believe it. He really began to enter into the state of knowing, the knowing that I've been talking about on this channel. I don't like the word feeling because I think there's way too many connotations with emotions and all kinds of other stuff, and I think it causes more confusion and does more harm than help. The knowing is something that I can get behind. Staying in the knowing, being in the knowing it into being. He was in that place. You could call it the feeling of naturalness. Wallace D. Wattles calls it the feeling of certainty. It's the feeling that you know. It's not like something that you do this repetition, you do this stuff until that saturates your consciousness. You've given it to yourself in the 4D so many times that now it's becoming to feel normal, natural. You're in that state of neutrality. You're not like, oh my God, this thing is amazing, or oh my gosh, I'll never be able to have it. You're in this state of neutrality. That's where you need to get. And once you get into that state of neutrality, once you climb up that scale of emotions and David Hawkins scale of consciousness, what I've been talking about lately as well, balancing the yin and the yang energies, that is how you get to the state of neutrality. When you're in too much emotions, too much feelings, which is what a lot of these people peddle in manifestation or spirituality, is like always just be in the feeling and you have to feel it, and like feeling on the high flying disc and stuff. I understand what they're saying, but I think that it gives people more, again, more harm than help, because people then obsess about living in the end. You obsess about it has to be this way. I have to be in the high flying state or the wish fulfilled state of having. I have to feel from the end. And no, you don't necessarily have to do that. There's a lot of people that have more success, especially with big things, that are taking a more growth based approach. And so they're like, even with this example, he's like, yeah, I have it. But let's say it's your SP. If it still feels so unnatural for you to have your SP, you can use a growth approach that's like, yeah, things are just going well for me. The vague approach as well. I'm becoming more and more magnetic. I'm becoming more and more attractive. All my ideal types of men or women are just magnetically attracted to me. They can't keep their eyes off me. Everybody falls in love as soon as they see me. People are falling head over heels for me everywhere that I go. And this becomes a lot more easy for your subconscious mind to accept, and especially using the language patterns that I discuss in my book, then a lot of the time just trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. That's like, I am with this person, where your mind doesn't believe it. Your mind is just rejecting it. It's almost like it's just not, it's, imagine like you have a past history of every single person in your life, your parents, your blueprint is just people left, you have abandonment, you have feelings of neglect maybe in your past, and all of a sudden you're trying to tell yourself, people always stay completely committed and faithful to me. They could work maybe, but you're going against so much programming that's why doing the exercises in my book, like removing your limiting beliefs, going and identifying them, and using a more gentle approach that is, you are in the process of achieving this can happen for you, it's possible for you, can be a lot more helpful sometimes than your body, you telling yourself something that you believe is a lie and your body instantly going into fight or flight. It's like your amygdala, just like the part of your brain, this is science too that I break down in the book as well. It flares up because it feels like it's under attack. If you were to go and tell yourself the counter exact opposite of something that you've been seeing evidence of your entire life, you're putting yourself into a fight or flight state. And so like the gentle approach, the holistic approach, the approach that is all inclusive, that encompasses all these different techniques you can do with yourself, where I give you all these techniques to get rid of resistance, completely eliminate fear, eliminate any sort of doubt, anxiety, any of these negative emotions like resentment, grief. When you go through these processes, now you're climbing up the scale, and it's the more and more that you climb up that, especially as it relates to your particular goal, now you're not going to be at war with yourself. You're not a house divided anymore, and you're using the yin and the yang energy in harmony to really get you what you want. So anyways, guys, much love as always. I hope that this was a helpful little breakdown / post for you guys and reading. And with that being said, much love, and I will see you guys in the next video.